The hotel room key weighs 1,000 pounds. The key felt like a lead weight in my palm. It wasn't a fancy key, just a standard white plastic key card for a mid-tier hotel chain. But it held the weight of my 5-year marriage, the future of my 3-year-old daughter, and the shattered fragments of my own heart. I stared at it, lying innocently on the kitchen counter where she had left it after her girls' night. A tiny magnetic strip encoded with betrayal. My name is Leo. I'm 25 years old, and as of 3 days ago, I believed I was in a stable, if somewhat tired, marriage to my wife, Chloe, who is 26. We'd been together since we were basically kids, navigating the transition from reckless university students to responsible full-time working parents. Our life wasn't a fairy tale, but it was ours. It was built on what I thought was an unshakable foundation of trust and open communication. We told each other everything, or at least I told her everything. The unraveling began with a concert. Chloe, a lifelong fan of an indie band that had recently found a second wind of popularity, had been desperate to go. The tickets were expensive, the venue was a 2-hour drive away, and it fell on a weeknight. As the primary parent who handled the intricate ballet of daycare drop-offs and pickups, it made more sense for her to go and make a night of it. I was thinking, she'd said, over a dinner punctuated by our daughter Maya, enthusiastically smashing peas with her fist. My old friend Jen said she could get us a room. We could make a proper girls' trip of it. I'd smiled, my mouth full of chicken. You should, I said, swallowing. God, you deserve it, dealing with this little monster all day. I'd winked at Maya, who giggled, a green smear on her cheek. That was the first lie, not a lie of commission, but of omission, a seed of truth twisted as it grew. A week later, the story had shifted subtly. Jen can't make it after all, Chloe announced, her tone carefully neutral. But guess who's in town? Mark. Mark. The name was a relic of a distant past. Mark was Chloe's boyfriend when she was 16, a high school romance that lasted a tumultuous 2 years. I'd seen pictures of him, a lanky teenager with bad acne and a leather jacket trying too hard to look like a rock star. He was, in my mind, a non-entity, a ghost from a life before me. He heard about the concert and managed to snag a ticket. He asked if I'd mind some company. I thought it would be okay. It's just Mark. It's just Mark, the 4 most dangerous words in the English language. My gut, that primal instinct men are taught to ignore in favor of being the cool, trusting boyfriend, gave a faint twinge, but I smothered it. To voice suspicion would be to admit I didn't trust her. And I did. Or I convinced myself I did, despite a previous festering wound that had never fully healed. Sure, I said, my voice a little too bright. Why not? As long as you're safe. Of course, she said, finally looking at me, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. It'll be like catching up with an old cousin. The night of the concert, I helped her pack an overnight bag. I even, and the memory of this now makes me physically ill, transferred 50 pounds into her account to help cover the hotel. Get a cocktail at the hotel bar, I'd said, kissing her forehead. My treat. You deserve a break from us. She'd hugged me tightly. I love you so much. I love you too. I spent the evening with Maya, building a precarious fortress of cushions and blankets in the living room. We watched Frozen for the 100th time, and I let her fall asleep on my chest, her small, warm weight a comforting anchor. My phone buzzed a few times, pictures from Chloe, a blurry stage, a colorful cocktail, a selfie of her smiling in the crowd. She looked happy, vibrant, a version of herself I hadn't seen in a while, buried under the weight of mortgage payments, work deadlines, and the relentless routine of parenthood. I felt a pang of guilt, thinking my own dull company was partly to blame for her needing this escape so badly. She came home the next afternoon, tired but buzzing with a residual energy. She was affectionate, almost clingy, telling me stories about the band, the crowd, the city, but there was a nervous undercurrent, a flicker in her gaze that I dismissed as post-concert exhaustion. For 3 days, life carried on. We went to work, we picked up Maya, we made spaghetti, we folded laundry, but the air in our house grew thick with something unspoken. She would start sentences and then trail off. She'd look at me with an expression I couldn't decipher, a mixture of pity and fear. The dam broke on a rainy Thursday evening. Maya was finally asleep after a protracted battle against bedtime. We were on the sofa, a crime drama neither of us was watching mumbling on the television. Leo, she said, her voice small and brittle, we need to talk. My heart plummeted into my stomach. That sentence is never followed by good news. Okay, I said, muting the TV. The silence in the room was deafening. She took a deep, shuddering breath, her hands twisting in her lap. The night of the concert, with Mark, something happened. And then she told me. The story spilled out in a halting, tearful confession. It wasn't a girls' trip. It had always been planned with Mark. They'd had drinks at the hotel bar, the one I paid for. They'd gone back to his room, their room, a detail she omitted, to carry on talking. And he told me he's never stopped loving me, she whispered, her face pale. That I was the one who got away. And I was flattered and the wine, and we kissed. Kissed? I echoed, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. For a while, she admitted, her voice barely audible. A few minutes. It got intense. He took my shirt off. The image exploded in my mind, vivid and horrifying. My wife, my Chloe, half naked, her skin against a hotel room sheets, another man's hands. The man I paid to have a cocktail, the man I dismissed as a harmless relic. I felt the room tilt, a wave of nausea so powerful I had to grip the edge of the sofa. He was the one who stopped, she rushed on, as if this was a point in her favor. He said, you'll regret this. And we stopped. Nothing else happened, I swear, Leo. We didn't have physical. I stared at her, my mind trying to catch up to process the tsunami of information. But I prompted, my voice a cold, dead thing I didn't recognize. She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. But I think I probably would have if he hadn't stopped. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That probably was the kill shot. It wasn't a mistake stopped in its tracks. It was a conscious path she was walking down, a door she was more than willing to open. The only thing that prevented her from crossing the final threshold was his conscience, not her own. In that moment, the foundation of our life together didn't just crack, it vaporized. I stood up. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I felt a terrifying, absolute calm. I walked upstairs, my movements robotic, and pulled a duffel bag from the top of the wardrobe. I started packing. Underwear, socks, a few t-shirts, my toiletries. Chloe appeared in the doorway, her face streaked with tears. What are you doing? Leo, please, we need to talk about this. What is there to talk about, Chloe? You went to a hotel with your ex, a trip I financed. You made out with him. You let him undress you. And you've just told me you would have fucked him if he had been less of a gentleman. What part of that requires a discussion? You're just leaving? Just like that? After everything? Her voice was rising, edged with panic and a shocking undercurrent of anger. You're not even going to fight for us? The sheer audacity of it stole my breath. She had set our marriage on fire, and she was upset with me for not standing in flames with her. I'm leaving because if I stay in this house for one more second, I might say something I can never take back. I'm leaving because the image of you with him is burning a hole in my brain and I can't look at you right now. I brushed past her, down the stairs, and out the front door. The cool night air hit me like a physical blow. I got into my car, the panic I had been suppressing finally crashing over me. My hands shook so violently I could barely get the key in the ignition. I was hyperventilating, tears finally blurring my vision as I drove away from my home, my daughter, my life. I was going to my mom's. I was 25 years old, and I was going home to my mother because my wife had broken me. My mother, Carol, took one look at me standing on her doorstep at 10 p.m., duffel bag in hand, face pale and streaked with tears, and simply opened her arms. She didn't ask questions. She just pulled me into a hug, the familiar scent of her laundry detergent and perfume a painful comfort. She led me to the small, familiar guest room, my old room now repurposed, and told me to sleep. We'll talk in the morning, she said, her voice soft but firm. Sleep was a possible. The moment I closed my eyes, the movie reel played on a loop. Chloe laughing with a man whose face I could only imagine as a more handsome, adult version of the teenager in the photos. Their hands touching over a cocktail glass. The walk to the hotel room. The kiss. 3 minutes. An eternity. His hands on the hem of her shirt, lifting it over her head. Her not stopping him. Her wanting more. I was drowning in the imagery, each frame a fresh stab of agony. But beneath the sharp, immediate pain of this new betrayal, an older, duller ache began to throb. This wasn't the first time. It happened about 2 years ago, a few months after Maya was born. We were in a desperate place. My paternity pay was pathetic. Chloe was on statutory maternity